Have you ever stopped and asked yourself whether something as private and seemingly harmless as masturbation could actually be working against your health as you age? Once we pass the age of 50, and especially beyond 65, maintaining both physical and mental well-being becomes more important than ever. Many habits that felt natural or safe when we were younger don't always play out the same way in our later years. And here's the surprising part. One particular habit, often brushed aside as nothing more than a normal part of life, may quietly be creating health challenges you never connected the dots to. In today's video, we're going to dive deep into a subject that's rarely spoken about openly: how frequent masturbation after 65 can sometimes have unintended consequences for your body, your energy, and even your mood. While no one denies this is a natural human behavior, recent discussions among doctors and aging experts suggest that in certain cases, it may contribute to struggles many seniors already face without realizing the hidden cause. If you stay with me until the very end, what you'll discover today may completely change the way you look at your health going forward. We'll uncover the connection between this habit and your cardiovascular system, your nervous system, and even your long-term cognitive health. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever noticed feeling more drained, less stable in mood, or even just a little off balance after certain private activities? You might not have linked it to your heart or your brain, but the truth is that subtle changes in the body's response at this age can add up in ways you never experienced before. That's why by the time we're finished here, you'll have a clearer understanding of what's really happening inside your body, and more importantly, you'll feel equipped to make smarter choices about your overall well-being. So before we get into the details, let me just remind you, if you haven't already subscribed, hit that button and turn on the bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And I'd love to hear your feedback. If you find this helpful, type 1 in the comments, and if not, type 0 so I know what to improve for you in the future. Now, let's get started. Number 1, unexpected strain on the cardiovascular system. One of the biggest overlooked risks of frequent masturbation after 65 is the effect it can have on your heart and blood vessels. At first glance, it might not seem related at all. But here's the thing: any activity that spikes your heart rate and blood pressure in a short, intense burst can put stress on an aging cardiovascular system. When we're younger, our arteries are more flexible and resilient, able to handle those quick changes. But as we grow older, our blood vessels naturally lose elasticity. That means sudden increases in heart rate can sometimes lead to dizziness, irregular rhythms, or in rare cases, even trigger more serious cardiac episodes. Picture this. You walk up a flight of stairs or carry in heavy groceries. You feel your heart pounding, your breathing shift, maybe even a touch of fatigue. Now imagine that same physical response, but without the gradual warm-up or pacing that comes from intentional exercise. Instead, your body gets hit with a rapid spike in heart rate and blood pressure. For many older adults, that sudden shock is more taxing than they realize. That's why some people over 65 report feeling lightheaded, unusually tired, or noticing odd rhythms in their heartbeat after certain private moments. Take William, for example, a 72-year-old retired engineer. He had always thought of himself as relatively healthy. He watched his diet, stayed active, and never considered his private habits to be a health issue. But recently, he began noticing a strange tightness in his chest and a shortness of breath afterward. At first, he dismissed it as just part of aging. What he didn't realize was that his cardiovascular system was reacting to an activity he'd always thought was harmless. His story is not unique, and it's exactly why raising awareness about this topic matters. William brushed it off at first, but after one particularly uncomfortable episode, he finally decided to bring it up with his doctor during a routine checkup. To his surprise, his physician explained that these kinds of symptoms weren't unusual for men in his age group, especially those who had even mild heart concerns or a history of high blood pressure. The doctor didn't tell William that he needed to stop completely. Instead, he encouraged him to be more aware of his body's signals and to avoid pushing himself in ways his cardiovascular system wasn't prepared to handle. And that's the key here. This isn't about creating fear. It's about building awareness. Many seniors don't realize how much their bodies change in the way they recover from physical effort, even from something that doesn't feel like exercise. As we age, recovery time stretches out. The heart muscle doesn't rebound as quickly, the blood vessels don't adjust as easily, and a sudden rush of exertion without any warm-up can be harder on the body than you might expect. Occasional activity on its own may not be dangerous, but frequent intensity or prolonged stimulation could be placing stress on an aging cardiovascular system without you even recognizing it. If you've ever noticed sudden fatigue, a wave of dizziness, or even mild chest discomfort afterward, that may not just be getting older. It could be your body's way of asking you to slow down and listen. Paying attention to those signals could make all the difference in protecting your heart. Number 2. Nervous system fatigue and energy depletion. Another effect that rarely gets talked about is how frequent masturbation can quietly wear down the nervous system, leaving you feeling sluggish, mentally foggy, or simply drained in a way that's hard to explain. The human body depends on a delicate balance of hormones, energy, and neurological signals to function at its best. When we're younger, this system is resilient, bouncing back quickly after stimulation. But as we get older, that balance becomes far more fragile, and recovery takes longer. Think of your nervous system like a rechargeable battery. Every single thing you do, whether it's physical exertion, emotional processing, or mental focus, draws energy from that battery. When you were younger, the recharge cycle was fast. You could take on more stimulation without much consequence. But over time, that recharge slows down. What might have once felt like a harmless release or a quick stress reliever in your younger years can, in your 60s or 70s, start to leave you feeling unsharpened and drained for hours or even days afterward. Consider the story of Richard, a 69-year-old retired teacher. Richard began noticing that he struggled with low energy throughout the day. He'd wake up tired, need multiple naps, and found it hard to stay focused even on small daily tasks. He just assumed this was normal aging. But when he decided to cut back on certain habits for a few weeks, he was stunned by the difference. His energy improved, his focus sharpened, and even his sleep quality got better. Suddenly, it became clear. Overusing certain bodily systems was depleting his reserves. Once he adjusted, his overall well-being rose significantly. So why does this happen? Much of it comes down to neurotransmitters, the tiny chemical messengers in your brain that regulate mood, energy, and motivation. Masturbation stimulates dopamine, the pleasure and reward chemical. While that feels good in the moment, too much stimulation can lead to what's often referred to as dopamine burnout. Over time, your brain becomes less sensitive to pleasure signals, leaving you with lower motivation, more fatigue, and even mild depressive symptoms. When you're younger, your nervous system bounces back from these fluctuations quickly. But with age, the recovery slows. That's why older adults may feel more exhausted, more foggy, or less motivated after activities that once left them refreshed. Recognizing this pattern can help you adjust your habits, protect your energy, and support your mental clarity in ways that make your daily life far more enjoyable. For many older adults, one of the most common observations is that they simply don't bounce back with the same energy they used to. Those who engage in this habit more frequently often report feeling more sluggish, more tired, or less focused than they remember being in their younger years. The real issue isn't about completely stopping. It's about recognizing that your body has changing limits as you age and making choices that protect your energy rather than drain it. If you've ever noticed an unusual sense of fatigue, lack of motivation, or trouble concentrating for no clear reason, it may be worth asking yourself whether this private habit could be playing a role. Small adjustments, such as spacing out your frequency or paying closer attention to how your body responds, can make a surprisingly big difference in how you feel day to day. It's about working with your body's natural rhythm instead of pushing against it. And if you're still here watching, that tells me you're truly interested in taking care of your health. Go ahead and drop the number 2 in the comments to let me know you're with me. Your feedback helps me continue bringing you the kind of insights that matter most for your stage of life. Number 3. Disrupted sleep patterns and increased restlessness. Another overlooked consequence of frequent masturbation in older adults is the effect it can have on sleep quality. Many people believe that engaging in this activity before bed will help them relax and drift off more easily. And while that may have felt true decades ago, the reality changes as we age. Instead of producing deep, restorative rest, it can sometimes lead to restless nights, frequent awakenings, and mornings where you wake up feeling far less refreshed than you expected. Sleep is one of the body's most delicate processes, orchestrated by a complex dance of hormones, brain activity, and nervous system regulation. One of the key players in this process is melatonin, the hormone that signals to your body when it's time to wind down. The challenge is that activities which trigger a strong surge of dopamine, the brain's pleasure and reward chemical, can interfere with melatonin production. When dopamine levels rise too high in the evening, your body struggles to make the smooth transition into a restful state. This explains why some people notice that while they may feel relaxed right afterward, they find themselves tossing, turning, and waking up multiple times during the night. Take Gerald, for instance, a 74-year-old retiree who always prided himself on being an early riser. Over the years, however, he began noticing a frustrating pattern. He would fall asleep quickly, only to wake up again and again throughout the night. No matter how carefully he adjusted his bedtime routine, the grogginess never went away. It wasn't until Gerald came across information about the link between dopamine and melatonin that the connection became clear. By making small changes to his habits before bed, he noticed a dramatic improvement: deeper rest, fewer awakenings, and mornings where he actually felt restored. There's another layer to this, too. For many seniors, the nervous system is already more prone to overactivity at night. Conditions like restless leg syndrome, nighttime cramps, or general sleep disturbances are already common with age. Adding extra stimulation before bed can further excite the nervous system, making it harder for the body to fully relax into the deep stages of sleep that are critical for healing and restoration. And this isn't just about feeling tired the next day. Poor sleep has ripple effects that touch nearly every aspect of your health. Research shows that chronic sleep disruption in older adults is linked to higher levels of inflammation, greater risk of memory decline, and even a weakened immune system. When the body doesn't get enough deep sleep, it struggles to repair itself properly, leaving you more vulnerable both physically and mentally. So if you've been battling restless nights, frequent wake-ups, or that constant morning fatigue, it may be worth considering whether this habit is playing a role. Even small adjustments, like changing the timing or reducing the frequency, can help improve your sleep quality and give your body the recovery it needs to stay strong and sharp. Number 4. Increased risk of prostate irritation and urinary issues. One more concern that often slips under the radar involves the prostate and urinary system. While the prostate plays an important role in male health, it also becomes more sensitive with age. For men over 65, frequent stimulation can sometimes lead to irritation, swelling, or even exacerbate pre-existing urinary problems. Symptoms such as increased urgency, difficulty starting or stopping urination, or a lingering sense of discomfort are often brushed off as just aging. But in some cases, they may be tied to habits that place additional stress on the prostate. As the body ages, tissues are more vulnerable to inflammation, and the recovery process is slower. What might not have caused noticeable issues in your 30s or 40s can now manifest as irritation or discomfort. Over time, this kind of strain may increase the risk of infections or make urinary symptoms worse. Recognizing the potential link allows you to take proactive steps, like moderating frequency, staying hydrated, and checking in with your doctor if symptoms persist. One of the unexpected consequences of frequent masturbation in older adults is its potential effect on prostate health. Many men grow up believing that regular activity in this area keeps everything working smoothly, and while that might feel true in earlier decades, the body reacts differently as we age. For some men, overuse can actually lead to increased sensitivity in the prostate, mild inflammation, and even a higher risk of urinary discomfort that wasn't a concern when they were younger. It's important to remember that the prostate naturally enlarges with age, a condition known as benign prostatic hyperplasia or BPH. This enlargement can press against the bladder, making it harder to fully empty. The result? More frequent urges to urinate, especially in the middle of the night. When the prostate and surrounding tissues are overstimulated, irritation can set in, heightening the sensation of urgency and disrupting daily comfort. Some men report that after frequent activity, they notice a temporary tightness, a weaker urine stream, or even a slight burning sensation. While these symptoms aren't always a cause for panic, they are signals worth paying attention to, especially if they begin to interfere with your everyday routine. Take Leonard, for example, a 71-year-old retired construction worker. Leonard had never struggled with urinary problems before, but recently he noticed that he was waking up more and more often during the night to use the bathroom. At first, he shrugged it off as just part of getting older, but after mentioning it to his doctor, he discovered that overstimulation of the prostate can temporarily make urinary symptoms worse by increasing inflammation and sensitivity. His doctor suggested taking a short break from frequent activity to see if things improved, and sure enough, within just a couple of weeks, Leonard was waking up less often and felt more comfortable overall. There's another piece of this puzzle that often goes unnoticed: the role of the pelvic floor muscles. These muscles support bladder control, and like the rest of the body, they naturally weaken with age. When overstimulated, they can become fatigued, leading to occasional leaking, sudden urges, or difficulty maintaining full control. At first, the changes may be subtle, but over time, this fatigue can contribute to a gradual decline in urinary function. For men who already struggle with mild urinary issues, this becomes especially important. If you've noticed more urgency, occasional dribbling, or difficulty fully emptying your bladder, consider whether frequent stimulation might be part of the issue. Simple adjustments like reducing frequency, staying hydrated, or incorporating pelvic floor exercises can help protect prostate health and maintain better bladder control without unnecessary strain. And if any of this sounds familiar to you, don't ignore it. Your body is giving you signals, and listening to them is one of the best things you can do for your comfort and long-term health. Even small changes can create meaningful improvements in your quality of life. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, type the number 4 in the comments below so I know you're here. Your feedback helps me continue providing the information that matters most to you. Number 5. Hormonal imbalance and mood swings. Another surprising effect of frequent masturbation after the age of 65 is its impact on hormone balance and overall mood. Most people don't realize that this activity is closely tied to the release of key hormones that regulate energy levels, emotional stability, and even cognitive function. While it might feel like a quick stress reliever in the moment, doing it too often can trigger subtle but significant hormonal fluctuations, leaving you feeling emotionally unsettled, irritable, or even slightly down in the days that follow. Hormones like testosterone, dopamine, and oxytocin all play powerful roles in shaping how we feel day to day. Each time you engage in this activity, there's a surge of dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter that boosts pleasure and motivation. But here's the catch: when the body is overstimulated too frequently, the brain's response to dopamine can actually weaken over time. This can lead to what some experts describe as dopamine fatigue, a state where your ability to feel satisfaction or motivation decreases, leaving you with lower energy, reduced drive, and unpredictable mood swings. For younger men, the nervous system and hormonal balance can recover quickly, but after 65, recovery takes longer, and the impact of these fluctuations lingers. That's why some older adults notice that instead of feeling energized or uplifted, they're more likely to feel drained, irritable, or even mildly depressed after frequent activity. Recognizing this connection can help you regain more control, not by stopping completely, but by finding a rhythm that supports both your physical and emotional well-being. As we age, there are many parts of daily life that change, sometimes in subtle ways we don't immediately recognize. One of those areas, which is rarely talked about openly, is how frequent masturbation can affect overall health after the age of 65. While most people think of it as a natural, harmless habit, the truth is that over time, it can create ripple effects in the body that influence mood, energy, and even physical sensitivity. These changes may not show up overnight, but when they do, they can leave many older adults feeling confused about why their well-being doesn't feel as stable as it once did. One of the biggest issues is something called dopamine depletion. Dopamine is the feel-good chemical in the brain that drives motivation and pleasure. Each time you engage in sexual release, dopamine spikes, giving you that temporary lift in mood. But here's the catch. If the stimulation happens too often, the brain gradually becomes less sensitive to dopamine. This means it takes more stimulation to achieve the same level of satisfaction, and regular everyday activities, things like reading, exercising, or even spending time with loved ones, can start to feel less enjoyable. Over time, this pattern can create a cycle where pleasure becomes harder to find, and frustration or lack of motivation quietly sets in. Consider Edward, a 68-year-old former accountant who was always known as a calm, positive, and level-headed man. But over the last year, he noticed himself riding an emotional roller coaster, energized and sharp one day, then sluggish and easily irritated the next. At first, he chalked it up to normal aging, but after reflecting on his daily habits, Edward realized there was a connection between his frequent private activities and his fluctuating moods. By simply spacing out the frequency and giving his body time to recover, he started to feel a remarkable difference. His mood evened out, his energy levels became more consistent, and those frustrating emotional crashes all but disappeared. Another piece of the puzzle has to do with testosterone regulation. For younger men, testosterone flows at naturally higher levels, fueling energy, muscle tone, and motivation. But after 50, and especially after 65, testosterone production declines. Frequent sexual release can sometimes cause temporary dips in this already limited supply. Add in the fact that certain hormones, like prolactin, spike after release and may suppress testosterone further, and you've got a recipe for fatigue, low drive, and even subtle changes in strength or muscle mass. The good news is that moderation can help restore balance. Giving your body more time between instances of stimulation allows hormone levels to reset, leading to steadier energy and a stronger sense of overall well-being.
But the changes aren't limited to mood or hormones. Another lesser-known effect of frequent masturbation in older adults is reduced sensitivity over time. The nervous system is designed to adapt when the same type of stimulation occurs repeatedly. The nerve receptors gradually dull their response. What once felt effortless and deeply satisfying may start to feel weaker or require more time and effort. This isn't just frustrating, it can also leave you feeling like something important has been lost. Robert, a 73-year-old retired musician, knew this feeling well. Throughout his life, he had always enjoyed staying active and maintaining his youthful habits. But slowly, he noticed a difference. The sensations weren't as sharp, the enjoyment wasn't as strong, and reaching satisfaction required more focus than before. At first, Robert thought it was just part of getting older. But after speaking with others and reflecting on his own habits, he realized that overstimulation had played a role. When he started giving himself more space between sessions, his sensitivity gradually returned, and the experience became more fulfilling again. All of this points to one key message: moderation is essential. Masturbation itself is not harmful. In fact, it can be part of a healthy lifestyle at any age. But when it becomes too frequent, especially for men over 65, the body may not bounce back the same way it did decades earlier. By paying attention to the subtle signals, whether it's fluctuating moods, dips in energy, or changes in sensitivity, you can make small adjustments that protect both your physical and emotional health. If you've ever found yourself wondering why you feel emotionally off balance, unusually fatigued, or less satisfied than you used to, you're not alone. Many older adults experience these changes without realizing the root cause. The encouraging part is that small, mindful changes can lead to major improvements. Giving your body time to reset not only helps restore balance, but can also make the moments you do enjoy feel more rewarding. Your health and comfort are worth listening to. And sometimes, it's the little choices like slowing down, practicing moderation, or focusing on balance that make the biggest difference in how you feel each and every day. As time went on, he noticed that by giving his body more space to reset between instances of stimulation, something remarkable began to happen. His overall sensitivity improved. What once felt dull and repetitive started to feel more natural, more enjoyable, and far closer to the way it used to. This highlights an important truth. Our bodies, including our nervous systems, need recovery just like muscles do after exercise. You see, another factor that comes into play is something called nerve fatigue. Just like your legs can feel tired after walking too far, the nerve endings responsible for pleasure can also become overstimulated when exposed to the same repetitive activity too often. Over time, this overstimulation may create a dulling effect, making responses feel weaker, slower, or simply less satisfying than they once were. On top of that, frequent short bursts of dopamine, the brain's feel-good chemical, can alter how your brain processes pleasure. Instead of feeling excitement and anticipation in daily life, the brain starts to need more and more stimulation to get the same effect. Everyday joys, like enjoying a meal, listening to music, or connecting with friends, may start to feel less rewarding. The encouraging news, however, is that this process is often reversible. By giving the body and mind more time to recover, many people notice that their natural sensitivity gradually returns. It's not about stopping altogether, it's about balance, pacing, and ensuring that the experiences remain fulfilling rather than frustrating. If you've ever noticed that things just don't feel the same as they used to, or that it takes more effort and energy to reach the level of enjoyment you once had, you're far from alone. Many older adults go through this shift without realizing the underlying cause. The good news is that small adjustments in habits can make a big difference, helping to restore not just physical responses but also overall well-being. And if you're still here watching and finding these insights helpful, I'd love to hear from you. Type the number 6 in the comments below to let me know you're following along. Your engagement helps me continue creating content designed to support your health, happiness, and quality of life. You see, another factor that comes into play is something called nerve fatigue. Just like your legs can feel tired after walking too far, the nerve endings responsible for pleasure can also become overstimulated when exposed to the same repetitive activity too often. Over time, this overstimulation may create a dulling effect, making responses feel weaker, slower, or simply less satisfying than they once were. On top of that, frequent short bursts of dopamine, the brain's feel-good chemical, can alter how your brain processes pleasure. Instead of feeling excitement and anticipation in daily life, the brain starts to need more and more stimulation to get the same effect. Everyday joys, like enjoying a meal, listening to music, or connecting with friends, may start to feel less rewarding. The encouraging news, however, is that this process is often reversible. By giving the body and mind more time to recover, many people notice that their natural sensitivity gradually returns. It's not about stopping altogether, it's about balance, pacing, and ensuring that the experiences remain fulfilling rather than frustrating. If you've ever noticed that things just don't feel the same as they used to, or that it takes more effort and energy to reach the level of enjoyment you once had, you're far from alone. Many older adults go through this shift without realizing the underlying cause. The good news is that small adjustments in habits can make a big difference, helping to restore not just physical responses but also overall well-being. And if you're still here watching and finding these insights helpful, I'd love to hear from you. Type the number 6 in the comments below to let me know you're following along. Your engagement helps me continue creating content designed to support your health, happiness, and quality of life. Now, let's move on to something equally important. Number 7. The increase in feelings of loneliness and emotional detachment. This is one of the most overlooked consequences of relying too heavily on solitary habits like masturbation as we age. While it might seem like a harmless way to pass the time or relieve stress, too much dependence on it can sometimes replace the deeper, more fulfilling forms of human connection we truly need. Human beings are wired for connection, emotional intimacy, physical touch, meaningful conversations, and shared experiences are all essential to long-term happiness and mental health. When solitary activities become the primary outlet for comfort, the motivation to seek out real, meaningful social interactions may start to fade. Over time, this can lead to a quiet but powerful sense of isolation, making everyday social interactions feel less rewarding, or worse, unnecessary. Take James, for example, a 5-year-old widower. After losing his wife, he found himself slipping into a routine of spending more and more time alone. At first, it felt comfortable, familiar, even, but as time went on, he noticed he wasn't reaching out to friends like he used to. Even when he did, conversations felt forced, like an obligation rather than a source of joy. It took him a while to realize that his reliance on private habits for comfort was quietly reinforcing his sense of isolation. Once he made the effort to balance personal time with genuine social engagement, joining a local club, reconnecting with old friends, and attending community events, his mood began to lift. The heavy feeling of loneliness started to fade. This kind of emotional detachment doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual shift that can sneak up on you, often going unnoticed until the sense of disconnection feels overwhelming. The reason for this lies in the way the brain forms habits. When a quick, solitary source of comfort is readily available, it can sometimes replace the motivation to pursue deeper, more meaningful connections. Before long, the brain starts to prioritize the easier reward over the richer one, leaving social engagement by the wayside. But here's the thing, genuine human connection brings with it a powerful set of rewards. Even simple interactions, like sharing a laugh, having a heartfelt conversation, or receiving a warm hug, trigger the release of oxytocin and other bonding chemicals in the brain. These natural hormones help regulate mood, reduce stress, and strengthen resilience against depression. Unlike quick, fleeting forms of pleasure, these connections create long-lasting satisfaction that can carry you through life's challenges. So, if you've ever felt yourself pulling away from friends, family, or your community without fully understanding why, it may be worth taking a closer look at the role your personal habits are playing. With a few conscious changes, you can restore that balance, preserving not only your physical health, but also your emotional and social well-being. As we get older, one of the most powerful influences on our emotional well-being is something many of us take for granted: human connection. Every handshake, every hug, every meaningful conversation releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone that plays a key role in happiness and emotional stability. But when social interactions begin to fade, oxytocin levels can drop. Over time, this can quietly contribute to feelings of loneliness, emptiness, or even mild depression. If you've ever noticed that socializing doesn't feel as rewarding as it once did, or you find yourself pulling back from friends and family without really knowing why, it may be worth asking whether some of your habits are shaping those feelings. The truth is, even small shifts in daily routines can either strengthen or weaken our sense of connection. By intentionally setting aside time for social activities, reaching out to old friends, or pursuing hobbies that involve other people, you can reignite that natural sense of belonging and restore a deeper sense of joy to your life. This leads us to another, less commonly discussed concern: the health of your pelvic floor and how it affects bladder control. Many people assume that issues like urgency, leakage, or difficulty fully emptying the bladder are just part of getting older. While age certainly plays a role, habits that place frequent strain on the pelvic region can accelerate muscle fatigue. The pelvic floor, a group of muscles supporting your bladder, prostate, and lower abdomen, naturally weakens over time, but overuse without recovery can make matters worse. Think about it this way: if you worked your arms or legs too hard without proper rest, you'd eventually notice soreness, weakness, or a loss of strength. The same principle applies here. When the pelvic muscles are pushed too often or too intensely, they can lose resilience, resulting in frustrating changes to bladder control. Some people begin to notice increased urgency, more nighttime bathroom visits, or occasional leakage during a sneeze or laugh. Take Harold, for example, a 70-year-old retired mechanic who considered himself in good health. He started realizing that he was waking up multiple times at night to use the bathroom and occasionally experienced a slight loss of control in everyday situations. At first, he chalked it up to aging. But once he learned about the connection between frequent pelvic strain and bladder health, he decided to cut back on certain habits and added a few simple pelvic exercises to his daily routine. Within just a few weeks, Harold noticed real improvements, less urgency, better control, and a lot more confidence. Another factor at play here involves nerve sensitivity. The pelvic nerves are closely tied to bladder regulation. When overstimulated, they can send confusing signals to the brain, creating a false sense of urgency or causing the bladder to respond unpredictably. This is one reason some older adults wake up at night to use the bathroom, even when their fluid intake hasn't changed. The good news is that these challenges are often manageable. By making small adjustments, reducing frequency, allowing more recovery time, and incorporating pelvic floor exercises, many people regain stability and control, improving both comfort and confidence. These aren't drastic changes, but they can make a meaningful difference in your quality of life. So, if you've noticed unexpected changes in your bladder habits, whether it's increased urgency, occasional leakage, or simply more trips to the bathroom than before, don't just accept it as an inevitable part of aging. Reflect on your routines, make thoughtful adjustments, and give your body the balance it needs. Even small changes can create lasting improvements, helping you move forward with greater ease and assurance. If you've made it this far in the video, I'd love to know you're still with me. Drop a quick comment below with the words "number 8" to let me know you're here. Your engagement really does make a difference. It encourages me to keep creating content that supports your health, happiness, and overall well-being. Now, as we wrap things up, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've covered. Many habits that seem harmless in our younger years can create unexpected challenges as we age, and masturbation is no exception. From the effects on cardiovascular health and nervous system fatigue to its influence on hormone balance, sleep quality, and pelvic floor strength, one thing becomes clear: moderation and awareness are key. The purpose of this video isn't to stir up unnecessary concern. Instead, it's about giving you the tools and insights you need to make thoughtful, informed choices about your body. One of the most important lessons here is that your body is always speaking to you. The signals might be subtle: a change in energy, shifts in mood, increased bladder urgency, or even a decrease in overall satisfaction. But if you listen closely, those patterns can reveal a lot. The good news is that so many of these effects are not permanent. With small, intentional changes, whether that means adjusting frequency, improving your sleep hygiene, or setting aside more time for meaningful social connections, you can restore balance and regain a sense of vitality. Even modest adjustments can have a noticeable impact on how you feel each day, helping you maintain strength, confidence, and emotional well-being well into your later years. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these insights stood out to you the most? Have you noticed any of these changes in your own life? Or do you have personal experiences that others might learn from? This community is built on shared wisdom, and your story could be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. So take a moment and leave a comment. Share one thing you learned and how you plan to apply it. And if you found this video valuable, please give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with someone you think might benefit. Your support means a lot, and it's what allows me to keep bringing you content that informs, inspires, and hopefully makes your life a little brighter. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. Stay strong, stay connected, and as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.